did respond to an accident in Clayton County, Georgia, with possible injuries. When they arrived on scene, they observed a black Toyota Camry in the parking lot that appeared to have jumped a curb and struck a small tree. They made contact with the defendant, who was sitting in the driver's seat and yelling incoherent statements. He almost fell out of the vehicle and onto the pavement, where he lay on his stomach for several minutes. They then made contact with the 911 caller, Miss Leticia Hernandez, who stated that she observed the defendant's vehicle strike a pole in the parking lot after rolling a short distance. She stated that her and her occupants in the car tried to provide aid to the defendant. However, he was allegedly aggressive towards them and attempting to fight them.
Walker, who is this for?
That's correct, Your Honor. This is for Mr. David Walker.
All right, come up, Mr. Walker.
Yes, ma'am.
Raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. You're before the court on 2022 CR 03493 for driving under the influence, count 1, driving under the influence, count 2, improper lane change, count 3, striking a fixed object, count 4, open container, count 5, and no insurance, count 6. What did your client plead to the offenses before the court, Mr. Taylor?
Your Honor, my client pleads guilty to count 1 DUI, count 2 should merge, count 3 improper lane change. My client pleads NOLO. Count 4 striking fixed object. I believe that's no prost. Open container, no prost. To count 6, no insurance. My client pleads guilty.
All right. By entering a plea of guilty to counts 1 and 6, by entering a plea of NOLO to count 3, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, factual basis recommendation, please.
One item, Your Honor. This is a civil resolution that also includes case 2021 CR 08043. And if Ms. Payne will announce those charges, I don't believe they're on the calendar.
Okay, yeah. Can you tell me what those are, Ms. Payne?
Yes, Your Honor. For count 1, it is DUI less safe, less 2nd and 5. For count 2, it's open container. And for count 3, it's prohibited parking. But the state would be moving to dismiss counts 1 and count 2, and he would just be pleading to count 1. Or sorry, counts 2 and count 3. The state's moving to dismiss count. He would just be pleading to count 1.
Okay, and he's pleading guilty to count 1 on the second one?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. All right. So by entering these pleas, Mr. Walker, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir? All right. Factual basis and recommendation. Let's start with the oldest case, 2021 CR 08043.
Your Honor, if it would please you, the oldest case by date is actually the 2022 case. It was just accused before the 2021 case, or after the 2021 case.
I got you. Go ahead.
So for 22 CR 03493 is on or about on or about July 11th of 2020. Officers with the Clayton County Police Department did respond to an accident in Clayton County, Georgia, with possible injuries. When they arrived on scene, they observed a black Toyota Camry in the parking lot that appeared to have jumped a curb and struck a small tree. They made contact with the defendant, who was sitting in the driver's seat and yelling incoherent statements. He almost fell out of the vehicle and onto the pavement, where he lay on his stomach for several minutes. They then made contact with the 911 caller, Miss Leticia Hernandez, who stated that she observed the defendant's vehicle strike a pole in the parking lot after rolling a short distance. She stated that her and her occupants in the car tried to provide aid to the defendant. However, he was allegedly aggressive towards them and attempting to fight them. When they focused their attention on the defendant, the officer did note that he had a strong odor of alcohol coming from his person. They attempted to assist him to his feet. However, he would become aggressive with them as well. He stated he did not have any medical conditions. He didn't know what happened or where he was at. He also stated he didn't have any injuries and confirmed that he had been drinking alcohol. When asked how much he had consumed, he replied by stating that he drinks on a regular basis. They attempted to assist the defendant to his feet, and he continued to be aggressive and belligerent. Therefore, they placed him into custody and arrested him for DUI less safe, and no field sobriety tests were conducted because of this. As they were placing him under arrest, the defendant did make an utterance that he was an alcoholic. They then read implied consent for over 21 and asked him to submit to a blood test. He agreed, and his blood came back as a 0.272. Do you want me to do the recommendation for this or go to the next factual basis?
You can go ahead and give me the recommendation.
Right. For count one, it is 12 months to serve, 6 days jail, credit for time served, balance probated, and while on probation, pay a $500 fine, do 80 hours of community service, take a risk reduction course, have no drugs or alcohol, and submit to random testing, and take a substance abuse evaluation following your recommended treatment. Count two would merge into count one. Count three is a $100 fine, suspended, 12 months of probation to run consecutive to count one. Count four, the state is moving to dismiss. Count five is just a $200 fine. And count six is a $200 fine, suspended with 12 months of probation to run concurrent to count one. And if you're ready, I can do the second case.
Yes.
This one is on or about October 18th of 2020. Officers were conducting a general patrol in the Clayton County area when they observed a black Toyota Camry improperly stopped in the right turning lane. They activated their emergency lights and initiated a traffic stop. And they saw that the vehicle was running and had the hazard lights were flashing. They exited the vehicle and made contact with the defendant, who was asleep behind the steering wheel. They attempted to wake him up, and it was difficult to wake him up. They flashed the flashlight in his face and knocked on the door frame and shouted at him. Eventually, he awoke and appeared disoriented. They noticed his eyes were red and glassy, and he was sweating. They did notice a smell of alcohol beverage coming from inside the Toyota. And while they were looking inside, they observed a plastic cup in the center console area with yellow liquid in it. And they explained the reason for the stop, in which he was displayed passive aggressive behavior and refused to give his driver's license. He continued to be agitated and not cooperate with them, but they did, when they stood near the driver's side door, note an odor of alcoholic beverage coming from his breath and person. They did not perform field sobrieties on the defendant based on his conduct and the aggressive behavior he was showing, but based on their findings, they denoted that he was DUI less safe and placed him under arrest for DUI less safe and read implied consent for 21, requesting a sample of his blood, and he refused. And all this occurred in Clayton County. And the recommendation for that is for count one, It is 12 months to serve, 4 days jail, credit for time served, balance probated, and while on probation, pay $1,000 fine, do 240 hours of community service, take a risk reduction program, do no drugs and alcohol, and follow any recommended and submit to random testing, take a substance abuse evaluation, and follow any recommended treatment, and to continue doing the Turning Point of Tampa outpatient treatment program that he is currently enrolled in, and pay the $25 publishing fee to publish his picture in the newspaper. For I did not request an interlock on this, no, Your Honor. For counts 2 and 3, the state's moving to dismiss, and this case would run consecutive to 2022 CR 03493.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, just one question regarding the sentencing recommendation. Our understanding was there was going to be 280 hours total between the two cases, not basically 40 on case one.
I'm already thinking it's too light. I need to hear more about this Turning Point because Mr. Walker's an alcoholic. So if he's done something to address that since he picked these 2 charges, then we consider that. But yeah, I'm already thinking that these sentences are too light. But let's talk about what he's done in the interim.
Mr. Walker is participating in Turning Point of Tampa Detox and Residential Treatment Program. I've provided documentation to the state showing that he's already participated in intensive detox.
He's done detox. He's done.
Sure.
Is this a counselor?
This is Ms. Walker. This is the defendant's wife, but she is also a treatment nurse for
Turning Point of Tampa.
For what?
For Turning Point of Tampa. She is the defendant's wife and is also a nurse.
So he going to the program where his wife works?
Yeah.
In Tampa, but he's also attended programs here in Georgia and had evaluation here in Georgia as well. And Your Honor, these both of these DUIs occurred 4 years ago in 2020. And Mr. Walker's made substantial changes in his life and participated in a great deal of alcohol recovery and treatment programs, both in Georgia and ongoing in Tampa, Florida.
So they live in Florida?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So I would be expected to have all of this stuff completed in Florida?
Most of the requirements for the alcohol drug evaluation and treatment and the random testing he's been going through currently, and it's been ongoing. It's primarily the community service will be the one item of the sentence that probation would monitor that would need to occur in Florida.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me in the interim where I'm concerned about you ever getting back on the road again. You were 0.272. You was pickling yourself. It takes time to get up to a 0.272. You just don't do that and then walk away. You got to work up to that kind of blood alcohol level and still be coherent and not hospitalized. So tell me what you've been doing in the interim to get your life back on track.
Excuse me personally, I had went and did the detox as my wife had explained. Then I did residential, then I did partial hospitalization, then I did intensive outpatient, and now I'm downgraded to outpatient. That process started from March 5th and it's ongoing. Every morning, Monday through Thursday, I have a home group AA meeting that I attend at 7 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays is when I attend my outpatient classes from 9 to 12. I work on Friday, Saturday. That's my work schedule, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I do about 13 hours a day. That's the only reason I don't attend a meeting on those 3 days.
Okay, what you do for a job?
Forklift work, U.S. Foods.
You from New York or Philly?
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
That's where I was born. I heard it.
Yes, ma'am.
You have children, Mr. Walker?
Yes, ma'am. I have 4 children, 3 daughters and a son. Youngest child is 14.
Ooh, I got one of those. Yeah, you've done some substantial work. I don't have that you have had anything else, but you recognize my concern, right?
I most definitely do, ma'am. Yes.
Your
But you
Honor,
seem,
if
yes,
you would like to know, we did run an updated criminal history on him, and for both Georgia and national, he does not have any new charges since 2020.
okay, that works. Um, you have an amazing support system, Mr. Walker, because there are not too many people who have a spouse or a loved one who's trained in addiction recovery. I happen to have one. My husband used to run a sober house. So I've heard stories of, how difficult it is to kind of shepherd people through that process. And then to have it be somebody you love who has to assist you, um, I understand that. And so I've a lot of respect for Mrs. Walker and how she's assisting you through this process to try and get her her family back on track. Um, because of what I heard, my concerns have been somewhat allayed. That you are participating in a treatment program. It's the type of treatment program we wish we could offer to other people, and that you are in a program that has progressive steps, and you have altered your work schedule so that you can prioritize your recovery, because at the point where you stop prioritizing your recovery, then that's the point where things are going to go off the rails. And this is what I say: a lot of people either are in denial that they have an alcohol problem, or they believe that it is something they can handle themselves. It's not, necessary to really devote time and energy to it. Just I can stop anytime I want to, as we've heard. But I believe that anytime you have a medical issue like hypertension, diabetes, those things where if you take your eye off the ball, if you stop using your medication, if you stop doing the lifestyle changes that you need, you will suffer severe physical consequences, and including death. I think alcoholism is the same way. The severe physical consequences are that at any given time, if you get behind the wheel impaired, you could kill yourself, injure yourself, or injure or kill someone else. And so, um, and the other things are, if you are in a continuous state of alcoholism, you lose connections with your family. You lose the respect of your community because they feel like you're not trying. Even as hard as it is, you lose those connections. And so what I would ask of you is to remember that you got at least 5 reasons to want to continue to maintain your sobriety. And I always say this too, that sometimes alcoholism is not the disease itself, but it is a response to some kind of issue, either a trauma issue or a grief issue that we haven't dealt with. And so if you find that through your recovery, there's an underlying issue that prompts you to use alcohol to numb that issue, then you need to dig it out, do the work, and start dealing with that in order to be healthy. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to accept your plea on case 2022 CR. I'm doing that one first because that was the oldest in time, and I guess that's the one we did. 2022 CR 03493. Accept your plea of guilty to driving under the influence. Count 2 will merge. Count 3 will is a NOLO plea. Count 4 null pros. Count 5 I guess NOLO plea, and count 6 guilty. On count 1, 12 months to serve, 6 days credit for time served. Balance will be probated for you to pay a fine in the amount of $500. The fine is going to be pretty hefty because the surcharges on a DUI fine are pretty heavy. And so I can't even quote you. Generally, it'll be $737, but it's going to be over $1,000, I think. And I don't know that particular amount. It's going to be 80 hours of community service. risk reduction course, no alcohol or illicit drugs during the course of your probation, and you're subject to random screens for alcohol and drugs. I will accept your drug screens, your substance abuse evaluation and treatment that you're undergoing as part of the Turning Point outpatient program, as long as you keep those reports, present those reports to your probation officer. Count 3 will run concurrent with count 1. It's a $100 fine suspended. Count 5 is a $200 fine, which will run concurrent with count 1. That'll be $298 with the surcharges. Count 6 is a $200 fine, which is suspended. That also will run concurrent with count 1. Now, this case will, the next case, 2021 CR 08043, will run consecutive to 2022 CR 03493. On that case, count 1 is guilty, 12 months to serve 4 days, credit for time served. The balance will be probated for a $1,000 fine, plus surcharges and 200 hours of community service. A risk reduction course, no alcohol or illicit drugs during the course of your probation. You're to continue the treatment from Turning Point outpatient outpatient service, and you're to continue the AA meetings that you have started under the program, and show proof of having attended those meetings. That, like I said, count 1 of that case will run consecutive to the previous case. Counts 2 and 3 will be no pros. I'll allow Mr. Walker, because he's in treatment in Florida, to serve by phone and mail. Mr. Walker, what that means is your program is going to have to mail those forms in on your behalf. You'll get the paperwork from probation. Just be timely in your reporting. The quickest way to mess up, to destroy all that you've worked for, is to fail to report, and to continue to take those classes and attend those meetings that will keep you on the path. And Mr. Walker, what my hope for you is that you get to the point where you're able to help somebody else in recovery. When you get to the point where you can be a sponsor, where you can help someone else, where you can share your journey with them so that you can help someone else get their life back on track, that to me is success. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you, when you leave the courtroom, you'll go out to the right. In that first courtroom to our right, 305, if you go through the double doors, Ms. James should be in there and able to sign you up. If she's working with somebody, she'll just ask you to sit in the hallway, okay? Just remember that if you have any issues, please contact your probation officer here first and let them know that you're having any difficulty with any part of any of the sentence that the court has imposed, okay? All right, Mrs. Walker, thank you for your assistance in this matter, and being steadfast in helping Mr. Walker to stay on the path.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right.
One additional item, just ask
Yes, sir.
a recall for the bench warrant and bond forfeiture.
All right, we'll recall the bench warrant, bond forfeiture, and I'll sign that as soon as I get it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr.
You had a
Taylor.
bond forfeiture in both cases?
Yeah, I guess whatever we had them in. The pleas themselves should take care of those, but if they don't, I do like to issue recalls just in case. All right, Mr. Taylor, did you have any additional hearings or pleas?
No, Your Honor, we withdrew our